Unorthodox radio from Boston and beyond. Heat981fm.com and iHeartStation.
Nancy, Smokehouse. It's the urban heat. Shout out to Coach Live.
Coach LA's time to listen to conversations that's gonna keep you winning. Sunday nights at 10 p.m. on the urban heat, just calling. Conversations with Coach La 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 La. Coach La 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 La. If you got something on your mind, you can call in, you can hit a line. She the realest, ooh, she the realest. You can tap in loud, always get the business to empower you so that you can do every and anything that you want to. Kicking it with Coach LA's time to listen to conversations that's gonna keep you winning. Sunday nights at 10 p.m. on the urban heat, just calling. Conversations with Coach La 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 La. Coach La 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 La.
Hey. How y'all doing? Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Coach La La La, your favorite around the way therapist. How y'all doing? Happy Sunday. You guys are tuned in to the Urban Heat, 98.1 FM, right here on iHeartRadio. Boston's only Black-owned radio station on the iHeartRadio platform. Yes, we are very proud about that here at, it's a wonderful thing. So guess what, y'all? I have had the most fantastic weekend. Shout out to everybody on Instagram. What's going on, Bestie? I see you checking in from Georgia. I'm all happy now. Look at you, girl. Got me all distracted. So I had a most amazing weekend. Shout out to the Africana Studies Department at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, baby. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary. And it was a beautiful thing. I also got to model with Vic Breedy. Shout out to my homegirl, Vic Breedy, for her brand, Genetically Resilient. I got a chance to hold the sign and rock the runway with some of my fellow alumni. So that was a beautiful thing. I also have a new intern. Shout out to Saida. She's been having some significant day in the lives hanging out with her Coach La La La. But I took her with me for a ride, and she came to the gala, and she wore her sneakers, and we had a good time. So other than that, my birthday's coming up. July is cancer season. Well, we're in cancer. Shout out to all y'all June cancers, but the July cancer is about to take over. So I'm excited about that. So, June is the month that I take it a little easy because of the passing of my dad. So y'all know all month, every episode this month has been dedicated to my father. So shout out and continue to rest in power, Kenneth Austin. I miss you dearly. And it's also Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. So we are still in the vein of talking about how to take control of our narratives, right? And especially for Black men. So tonight I have a special guest that I have had the pleasure of building with over the last 12, 18 months. We've done some really great work in the community out here in Boston. So he's going to be joining me. But before I have him join me, right, I want to play a clip that gives you just a little bit of insight on this brother's thought processes about Boston. So I'm learning all these new things, new gadgets, and got to get it together here. But I have it ready to go, and I want to play it for you guys. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my guest. So here we go.
Where the arts and cinematic influencers are creating new ways of expression and re-narrating history with docu-shows like the Bustin' Battlegrounds and Murder in Boston, where sports identify the integrity of its fans and allow just a sliver of time where we can actually put aside our differences. A land of amazing cuisine, superior skylines, and waterfronts that rival the entire East Coast. This is Boston, where the streets uplift its inhabitants. You got the Caribbean Festival, St. Anthony's Feast, Latino and Ethio Pride, St. Patty's Day, Cape Verdean Nation, Haitian Love, and of course, Juneteenth. With the spirit of entrepreneurism creates heroes in every industry. and our illustrious theater district makes us a tourist marvel. This is Boston, where educational, science, and medical platforms set the pace globally. Yet the history of redlining in neighborhoods continues to extend the generational wealth gap in BIPOC communities. And the word gentrification just has a fancy new term, development. This is Boston, where the history of our ancestors provides us with the energy for reclamation of land and power. And our cultural index touches everywhere in the globe, providing unyielding talent and cultural curiosity. And we're just starting to learn how to put it together. Look, Boston's a city of grit, resilience, and accountability. If you're not from here, you definitely got to earn your right to be here. Let me know what time your flight lands in Logan. I'll pick you up. Welcome to Boston.
All right, y'all. So, Mr. James Lambert III is my guest this evening. Tell you a little bit more about Mr. Lambert. He leads with authenticity, and he is motivated by increasing the quality of an experience for individuals and organizations. Originating in Newark, New Jersey, Lambert's experience have allowed him to develop ways of holding a high bar for accountability by reading cultural temperatures and disrupting patterns that uphold inequity. As an elementary through collegiate educator and leader, Lambert has had an impact on students, families, and peers by shaping educational activities that enhance cultural inclusion. Lambert operates not one, but two businesses as the co-founder of a DEI consulting firm, Making Human Technical, and the founder of Third Exposure, a company that focuses on event architecture and business upscaling. So without further ado, I'd like to bring my homeboy, my co-facilitator, the man who is always on stage and keeps it moving and busier than me. I've never met nobody busier than me. I think like literally we like twins, male twins, cancer twins. We actually both are cancers too. So please welcome, without further ado, Mr. James Lambert III. What's up?
Appreciate you. Thank
What's
you for
going on, man?
Man, life is good. First off, not you having a theme song.
Yes, I got a theme song.
Yeah, every superhero needs a theme song.
Every superhero needs a theme song.
No, I appreciate
Absolutely.
you having me though, really.
Yeah, man, it's been a wonderful ride.
Mm-hmm.
Getting to know you, we've been building a lot of great spaces.
Mm-hmm.
You've helped me enhance spaces that I already had. So I really wanted to bring you back for this conversation on networking and no filtered conversations, authentic relationships in business, because I think we both embody that. Just hearing about things that you've already done without giving up too much. I know that you are a great person to really add value to this conversation. So I want to know, and I'm sure everybody else wants to know, who is James Lambert III, aka Third Exposure, beyond the accolades, beyond the credentials? Who are you?
It's interesting that you asked that question like that. I wasn't expecting that. I don't think that was in the forecast of questions.
It was. Okay, but it's going to tie into your journey into entrepreneurship.
No, you're good though. I like the improv.
Yeah. Which is where we're going.
Yeah, no, I love it. So first off, God, fair man, father. I don't know. I think it's funny. I was actually talking to somebody not too long ago about this, and one thing I've had to reacclimate myself to constantly again, excuse me, is sometimes being direct and living with integrity can be a very difficult thing because folks don't like accountability, or folks don't like it when somebody's frank, or they want to be able to live in the shadows about their opinion about you. So sometimes if I see somebody, I'm like, you know how we get down.
Yeah.
I like to call out their gray.
Right.
I guess the summary of why I'm saying that is, I think I'm just a very direct, and I try to have authentic energy with people. Someone that's not there, like that's weird for me. And I've heard that that's alpha energy. And I'm like, I never really try to prescribe or say that this is that, because I think folks use it as an ego trip. But no, I have to own the fact that that's not customary, or that's not that organic for folks. And it comes with it used to come with a lot of internalizing, but now I'm at the point where I'm like, you know what? I think a lot of this is going to be themed as F them throughout the course of this conversation, because I've had to learn, I ain't going to let your insecurities or your desire to walk on eggshells or your gateway hold me back. Nah,
yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I think, you definitely are an energy shifter. And I say, we talked about this before. Some people have a presence. It's either in you, right? It's not on you, it's in you. When you just walk into a space, one, your height, in general, being a Black man, you're going to take up space, right? You're going to be seen. And that can be very intimidating for folks. So
Good.
like you said, the question of how, tell us more about your entrepreneurial journey and how has authenticity shaped your business model?
Yeah, no, indeed.
But I wanted to get people just get a little bit more sense beyond the accolades of who you are and why this, when you answer this question, how it all connects. Because I think you are authentic because of where you come from and what you've seen and what you've been through has forced you in some ways to really have to own that space.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly what I was leading to. You know, I was being raised by my grandfather, being raised by seeing two men really strong. My grandfather and my father, and how they led. I always thought that it was just what men do, and then you learn that it's not. But going back to the second tier question that you asked about, repeat it again, about how the entrepreneurship journey.
Right. So being authentic, the authenticity of that journey, how's that shaped you? How's that done that?
You know, indeed. And like you collaborate that with a question of networking. I remember when I first heard about networking, I thought it was just showing people you, oh, I'm here. But it's kind of like, I'm waiting on you to call me because you have the opportunity. And then my business partner, shout out to Lay, was like, RuPaul got a saying, it's about what are you bringing to the table? I was like, right? Why is somebody going to invest in me if I'm not investing in self? Mm-hmm. So then I really started to think about it. Okay, what can I curate? What within my power dynamic can I say, oh, here's what I got. So now when we meet, the conversation is no longer like I want to pose, I want to see how I can fit in your world. The question is, where can our worlds intersect? And if I'm bringing that authentically, and I know that I can create and produce something, and I've done it at a high value, or I'm learning how to do it at a high value, even that's fine. What I realized was this: in 2023, every 7 times, because I said, I'll grab a coffee with you, and I'll see where our worlds collide. 1 out of every 7 meetings turned into a contract, an invoice, a bag. 2024 was 1 every 4. So I went from 7 meetings to get a bag to 4. Well, I shouldn't say get a bag, but to see where the relationship could actually brew to be able to produce something. Now my ratio is a little higher than 50%. So I say all that to say I had to learn what my value add was going to be. And then when I sit down with somebody, it's easy enough within the first 20 minutes to see, okay, we can pull this out, we can pull this. Here's your strength, here's my strength, here's our network. Boom, and a timeline. And that really turned into one of my superpowers, was we're able to say, how do we build back or build collectively once a week for 45 minutes to produce this goal? And then I think a lot of folks, let me say it from my perspective, when I first got into this, I didn't want to become an entrepreneur. I had a divorce with a certain industry, and then that forced me outside. And I was like, well, I ain't going to beg nobody. I didn't want to get on any type of assistance. I said, let me figure it out. So boom, sure enough, it started to grow, left foot, right foot, and then I was able to produce. But I had to learn 6 weeks from now, can I make this event happen? How much preparation do I need? How many other resources do I need? And I just had to learn how to quantify that. So, very, very strong question. I appreciate that. But learning how to be organic with folks and then see where we can naturally collide based on our collateral strengths, or i.e. you and I even, then we produce something.
Right. So one of the things that you mentioned is, sitting down and building, or AKA having a coffee, AKA just having a conversation and finding out where things align, where synergy aligns. And one of the things I think with networking that people have to be more open to is having those conversations, right? Some of them may not go anywhere. And I think you also mentioned it's not always about getting a bag, but it's about understanding how can I add value, or vice versa. And sometimes these are just about building up your network where you can connect other people. In my other world, we call that being a power broker or a super broker, where if you go and you look at your relationships, and I challenge anybody to do this, go look at your relationships and see where you fall in it. Are you the connector? Did you bring people together? Or did other people bring you to people? And you can really start to see who you need to add, or who you should spend more time with, who you should invest more energy in. Because sometimes we're investing energy in energy drainers, right? They're not bringing anything to the table. Iron doesn't sharpen iron. It's just basically, it's a dead relationship in a lot of ways, but we won't let it go for other reasons that we'll put to the side for a second. But there's reasons behind that. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say this before we move into the second question. Somebody told me at one point in time too that I was transactional. She said the relationship with you feels transactional. I was like, damn. I was like, you're right. I told her, you're 100% right. It was 2023. I was trying to get to it, and I was trying to figure out how do I maximize every opportunity. And there was a level of desperation in it because I had bills to pay that I had to learn how to be independent solo, meaning off of a W-2 to do it. And then, but also I hadn't developed or created enough on my own to have confidence in my abilities.
Right.
So once I developed that, then it started being less transactional, and that's when it became more genuine. The second thing I was going to say really quickly, because I know you want to move on to the next question, is
but no, you're in a good place with the transactional.
Okay.
I want to stay here for a second.
So the second part, and I would give this, if anybody's looking to really start building their networks, two things. A, I stopped carrying business cards for a reason. And sometimes I'll bring them if I know I'm going to be in a mass of people. But when I exchange with you and we talk, especially if it's a 4 or 5 minute organic conversation, if I take your business card, then I'm adding a middleman. But if I say, hey, can I just text you? Then I text you, boom, and I'll store it later. It's like, yeah, 98% of people will say, yeah. Now I cut the middleman out. Email, texting is 10 times more intimate than an email. I don't got to go through your assistant. I'm right there. Boom. The second part.
That's a gem. Y'all don't understand how much of a gem. And that was a synergy too. I've been got rid of business cards. Go ahead.
Yeah. And the second part is whenever I do connect with you, my first message, hey, how you doing? What are you doing Thursday at 11? I got a black-owned smoothie shop. You already know, in Rosendale. You want to get a smoothie? Yeah. Boom. And I can talk more about how that developed and where that's going to based off of the networking. But those two gyms have a time and a location that you want to meet, date, time, location. Don't just say, hey, when your schedule opens up. Be specific about that and text that fool.
Listen, fortune is in the follow-up. So a lot of y'all know this, some don't. But again, for those that listen all the time, shout out to y'all. I came from financial services and business. Me and James both share a business background. We both hold masters in business administration, right? Boom, booyaka, booyaka. What I learned there before becoming a psychotherapist is the power of human behavior, right? The psychology behind being able to make a sale. And it was always fortune in the follow-up. There was always make it personal as quickly as you can. Learn 2 or 3 really cool things about a person that you can anchor when you speak to them again. So that helps you make something that is in the, I guess, in premise, right? It is transactional, right? I'm talking to you because you want something and vice versa. Like we're not AKA friends right out the gate. So it is transactional, but by doing that, finding something interesting about their life, something that they enjoy, you make it more personal, right? And then it's like, hey, I remember you like to play golf, or your favorite cheesecake was tuxedo. Yeah, I remember you. We met at the last networking event. How you doing? So granted, it was supposed to be about business, but you remembering that one personal item will make them smile and be like, wow, you remember that. That's cool. Wow. Okay. How you doing? That's right. What's your name again? There you go. Boom, boom. Just like that. So I really do believe that you need to get people's personal information, get it personal, and get past the middleman as quickly as possible. I think that's something you do really, really well.
I appreciate you.
The other thing you do is cross promote, where you connect the dots. So meeting in a black smoothie shop, right? So not only are you
shout out to my white smoothie shop folks too. It's not a bias.
Yeah, whatever. I guess, but he be in there all the time, y'all. So, but it's a wonderful opportunity to bring foot traffic into a black-owned business. They also give value, and you can build a relationship with them. And also, you're connecting people all the time, and it becomes like your Cheers, where everybody knows your name. While you're in there every week and you're having these different meetings, it becomes good for your mental health. For those that are working at home, I challenge you to get out of your house and find you a coffee shop, find you a smoothie shop like he just talked about, and go there a couple times a week. Sit in there, have a smoothie, work from the place, do some meetings.
And wash your behinds, man. All of y'all folks that work from home be taking them baths twice a week. We already know how y'all get down. Get outside the house.
Ew, but yeah, we ain't. All right, but listen. So, how did the no filter, the concept, come to life? And what void do you think we were trying to fill when we started No Filter almost a year ago?
So the funny part is I can't even remember how we originated the conversation. Oh, it was off the show. Boom. And then,
so this is like a year anniversary since you were last here.
That was a lot longer than a year ago, I think.
Yeah, it was. Well, it's a little over a year.
Okay. So
yeah.
No, you and I were rapping, and we throwing things at the wall, and I remember you saying that we should do a show. You wanted to call it Naked. I was like, lady, we are not calling no show.
I think I did want to call it Naked or something like that.
You want to call that Naked under hot wax or something? I forgot.
Not hot wax, but I did want to call it Naked. He's right about that.
The premise of her wanting to call it Naked was just so we could still convey the fact that there's going to be organic truth with no limits.
Right. Stripping down to the bare bones, transparency.
I think me suggesting no filter worked out in our favor in the long run.
It did. I think going into the corporate setting and how that transitions really nicely, because there are a lot of filtering. It's a lot of filtering, and that's an actual thing. Yeah. It's the filter. It's a cognitive distortion. So I think it connects clinically. It connects socially, because people are, oh, no filter, pause, all that good stuff y'all folks be saying.
No, but I think what it was doing was it was allowing us to use a social platform to be able to make a collision amongst therapy as well as the lived experience of people. So, i.e., you go to the beauty salon, I go to the barbershop. It was another version of that, but it was in a way in which you had two genres coming to space, kudos and space given to other genres, but you had two genres coming into a space to be able to say, we're going to make this an inclusive environment for folks that can relate to us, and add a therapeutic lens, add a level of engagement and socializing, but also give folks an actual platform, whether you wanted to observe and just kind of be in it and take away, or if you wanted to be able to engage. And I'll be honest with you, the first one hit, second one hit, and little did we know it was going to turn into something we could actually create for corporate level professional developments. And I think that's the part where that alone, if I'm being completely honest with you, that taught me never underestimate the power of a platform. Because I've had other platforms that I did not think were going to materialize. I had one that I was actually like, man, I ain't working with this individual, get on my nerves, like they were unprofessional, I think, and I had to do a lot of overworking. And it turned into some bags. Like I got other opportunities as a result of it. Right. So I know a lot of folks look at things and they think it's beneath them, or they don't want to work with certain people's price points. I was actually talking to another person today. You and I were talking about them offline. Mm-hmm. I'm like, hey, look, if you're in front of people, correct, you might do something for a low, but be in front of people who can pay you a high. There's bartering in this. Yes. So being able to identify those and not look at them as less than, and bringing your full self to that.
That's right. I think, again, more nuggets, guys. Once again, you guys are tuned in to Conversations with Coach La La La, your favorite around the way therapist. I like bringing things down to layman's terms, leaving you with nuggets and gems that you can actually apply to your real life. I think a lot of times people misconstrue therapy. If I really were to be honest, I would love it to be where people could fire me and you would no longer need a therapist, right? And to do that, you actually have to practice this stuff and expand your capacity and learn how to manage your emotions and dig deep into your past traumas and really start to heal and move forward so you can have this really fulfilling life. And I think some of the things you just touched upon, why I say that, is judging a book by its cover, right? Assuming that something is below you, beneath you, or being so focused on just one thing that you don't see the big picture of other opportunities. So your price point is your price point. You're not going to negotiate it. Yesterday's price is not today's price.
Say it with some bass in your chest.
But there are times where you got to look at the whole picture of who this person is, what they're trying to achieve. Is there really money there? That's something I learned about with grant writing, is that you had to also make sure that there was money there to solicit. So if you're dealing with a person that doesn't have any money, then you have to look at other ways to barter. Now, it's one thing if I got $1 million budget and I'm just being cheap, right? And I just don't want to pay you. But often we don't look at things that way. Or finding equity. How can you co-sponsor, co-facilitate, and share in the revenue producing in an event? Often we just want to show up, get our checks, but we don't actually really bring much value. We don't sell no tickets. We don't have no platform. We don't help market it. We don't do anything, right? But we want to get paid. So I think you touched on some really great things there. So No Filter now is rich. I think it has lots of legs. Oh, I don't know where it's going to go next, but we just finished up the last piece of a contract that lasted almost 18 months. Yeah. From a community networking event that we felt the void was, we didn't want to see any more boring networking events where people seem like they didn't know what to do. Right? Like if you've ever gone to that, raise your hand wherever you're at, you go to a networking event and you're sort of just lost, right? Like, who do I approach? What do I say? Do I give them my business card? A lot of anxiety. So we wanted it to be fun. And we had guided interactions that made you have to go and talk to people and get to know people So it wasn't just about you going and saying, well, I'm CEO of Resiliency and Optimism Changes Lives, and I'm a psychotherapist, and what I'm looking for is to get new clients. Like, boring, right? We actually got you talking, doing fun stuff like handshakes, which you really did not want people to do.
Yeah, I didn't think that was gonna hit, but it hit heavy.
Yeah, we did this activity and had people make up their own handshake, and get in front of the room and show people the handshakes that they created. And James was like, "That's corny. That's not gonna work." I'm like, I think it's gonna work. Let's just try it. Yeah. And they loved it. Yeah. People were laughing afterwards, getting each other's number.
Well, we built a camaraderie leading up to that point. Like you said, it was the guided networking in the beginning. It was the turning talks. It was that getting folks up, the real uncomfortable questions they had to pose with each other.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
So, and we built a lot of humor, because laughter always makes people chill out and get a little bit more authentic. And it wasn't based on one of the other things. We didn't emphasize drinking. Even though it was here, that wasn't really the point. It was like really to get people sober talking, because a lot of people need to drink or do something so that they can.
Plus, wasn't Marv bodyguard in drinks?
Yeah, he was sort of bodyguard. Shout out to Marv.
I got more tracksuits than you, fam.
Shout out to Marv. So let's take a shift real quick, right? One of the quotes that I took off of your page,
okay,
which this is a pivot. I didn't tell him about this. Your favorite quote: "Make today's decisions with the courage to be proud of them 5 years from now."
Yeah.
Right. And so I use that quote to talk about, what does networking really look like? Right. Mm-hmm. It's a series of decisions, right? Like, you really, when you think about, you're planting seeds.
Okay.
So shifting from performance-based networking to purpose-driven connection.
Mm-hmm.
What does networking really mean to you? How does that look real time, if you had to give somebody a definition from your perspective?
Well, it depends. Am I looking at organizations or people?
Start with people.
Yeah, if I'm looking at people, I realize the value that there is. So I'm not thirsty in that regard. So when I'm working with people, if somebody has a passion, and I have a passion, even if I don't see it, like I told you, I never sleep on opportunity. A coffee is 45 minutes and $3.18. So let's do that. Let's sit down, and I can tell if they're serious about whether or not they actually want to sit down, or I can tell as soon as we sit down, even if they don't know where their vision is, usually I can hear talent, and I can say, oh, boom, I've worked with somebody similar, and then I can throw more out while they're trying to figure their legs of it out. Mm-hmm. So when I'm working with people, I just look for people that are passionate in certain spaces. I've learned from folks that are dog walkers. I've learned from folks that are influencers, folks that were pumping plates out of their grandma's kitchen. Like, you name it. I've seen folks who are talented in their own right, and then we figure out how to make it profitable for both of us, or at least create exposure for both of us.
Yeah,
I'm cool with that, because even that has attraction. That's part of a network, and that's going to gradually turn into something over time. Mm-hmm. I.e., I'm sitting with a lady the other day. She's building, I don't want to give her gym away, but she has an idea for all small vendors to be able to find pretty much space in different, I don't want to give a gym away, but I was like, yo, that's
right.
Boom, we're going to figure out how to build on this together. So that when I'm approaching people, that's how I do it.
Right.
Organizations, I try to be a little more strategic. I look at like 3 to 7 organizations, and I'll find one that I'm passionate about. So I'm working with a place that has after school programming in a space of engineering and some other things. And I think they're looking to, I have in my mind, I think I know where they can build and how I can be of an access to them. So then I approach them low key with a pitch, even though it was kind of like a over coffee kind of conversation with 4 or 5 team members. And we say, here are the intersections. They see the value, they sit down, we chop it up, we identify, let's do this for 3 to 18 months, anywhere in that window. And they either agree or disagree. Here's our price point. Let's go from there. But I figure out what I feel I can be of value to them. Mm-hmm. And then I drive my asset in that regard. So I try to be really strategic about finding places where I think I can authentically connect, so it doesn't necessarily feel like work, and go.
I love that. So it doesn't feel like work. I think that is the beauty of really calling your own shots. So one of the things that,
because I'm not reaching out to no tech companies. Like, I don't know nothing about that. That's work. I got to do a lot of research.
Okay.
I'm gonna research regardless, but at least I'm doing it in the vein of things that I'm passionate about and knowledgeable about. I go to tech, I'm starting from scratch.
Yeah, I think, and I've led with that for a long time, is to do what interests me and what I love, which often has confused a lot of my friends and family, because sometimes I feel it seems like I'm all over the place. But anyway, I just have lots of interests. Leave me alone.
You good?
Yeah, I know. But people be getting on me.
You in the fashion world? You jumping into that fashion world next?
I was already in that though.
But I mean, you gonna do something with it, or you just gonna be outside trying to look cute?
No, I got some ideas for some merch.
Okay,
that I want to do. But therapy, right? Because this is Conversations with Coach La, and this is the virtual couch. Like we didn't, let's get into the nitty gritty.
Mm-hmm.
Therapy. And we've talked about, I've been trying to convert him to become a therapist, right? Because you do coaching, more consulting and coaching than you do therapy.
Yeah. It
but as you have met people, we've talked offline about sometimes you feeling like clients need therapy. So I'm curious about, what does therapy mean to you in this arena that we find ourselves in, for ourselves, clients, or organizations? Do you ever these people need some additional support because other stuff is coming up in these business meetings when you're doing coffee that ain't about business?
Yeah, I mean, I say that that's part of my initial touch point is the accountability measure. So I let them know, and again, that's why I don't have to be transactional anymore. I'm often brought in to say things that folks that contract me can't say. And then B, I'm saying to the people who are going to write the checks, if you don't want this level of, even let's call it feedback, because maybe you think my accountability is wrong. If you don't want this level of feedback, then I ain't the guy. I also say that accountability is not easy, even for me sometimes to receive. So again, in 2023, I think I work with 73 organizations. Two of the people within that 73, we don't see eye to eye. And cool, we don't have to work together anymore. But, there's an accountability measure in that, and also you're not going to make everybody happy. So I will say, I forget the term that you used in the question a second ago, but repeat the question one more time, just so I can summarize it.
So we were talking about how therapy connects.
Oh, okay.
And if you are noticing either in yourself and other people the need for therapy. So what does therapy mean in this space of networking, right? Because I think sometimes we can tell that some people may have cognitive distortions or some hangups that I think what we are able to do is have those difficult conversations that could potentially lead people to maybe go seek therapy, that maybe other people would be too shy to sort of hold you accountable. Like, yo, what's going on? We've been talking for weeks about these different things, and we keep talking about, oh boy, or we keep,
No, to your point, I think you and I probably have one of the best relationships in terms of a therapeutic sense. Meaning, I know there's been times with back and forth. We've, let's say you said something that didn't sit right with me. I say it didn't sit right with me right then and there, so that way we don't have to guess. To me, that's that transparency and integrity, but also the space we've created allows for us to be able to do that. Because now I don't got to go and guess about what you meant. I don't got to let the body keep score. So that to me is really cleansing in the moment. It's therapeutic in the moment.
Right.
The other part, and I think this is why you say I do the coaching, what she's leading to is with a lot of my clients, I asked them I set up a grid with them for consistency. And in that grid, it'll be like, all right, what are you doing for tithing? What are you doing for working out? What are you doing for all these other things? Because there's a balance in that. And a lot of my entrepreneurs, by tithing, I don't mean what are you financially giving to a church. My father has me in his rhythm of tithing within the first part of my morning. And I'll be honest, I've been off my rocker for a little bit. But the first part of your morning, what are you doing to devote your time to your spirituality? Because even if it's 3 to 4 minutes, whether you're manifesting, meditating, praying, whatever it is, reading, there has to be something to it, the purpose that's bigger than you. And then what are you doing for working out? Like, what's your goals in that? So the same way we're going to set goals for your business, your brand, and your network, and your social media. Yeah. What are we doing for your personal cleanser before you do any of that? So I think that's why she says it's coaching. And what I do find is, I'll say like 65% of my clients enjoy that part because, to your point a second ago, I'm making it real personal. Right. They can feel like, hey, I did wake up 3 times this week at 5 a.m. Right. And those exchanges are real. Like, that's how you really see people. Yeah. And I think, again, everybody out there, raise your hand. Most of us want to win in life, right? We want to be successful. I don't think people wake up and go, I want to suck and be a loser today. Mm-hmm. I think decisions, which is why I brought up your quote, from the past decisions show up now, right? So your life is a reflection of all of the decisions you made before this moment. You know where that quote comes from? Where it comes? No, I didn't know where it came from, but I said it came from you. when we started this conversation, I talked about leading in a real man way. And again, I'll just use the term, I like really having an alpha lens on something. So if I was whatever I was hired to do, I did, right? And I did it with a good feeling behind it. And that sometimes you're going to disrupt people because if you're standing firm on something, somebody's going to be unhappy. Anyway, terminated, slandered, the whole nine. And it makes you question how you lead because you realize that, damn, I'm going to just say it directly. Being a real man out here nowadays is villainized.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about it. It's men's mental health.
We're not throwing male toxicity on the I'm not talking about beating anybody. I'm not talking about DV. I'm not talking about cursing nobody out. I'm 6'7", 270. I don't try to use my size to intimidate people. I'm very melanated. Like you said, when I walk into a space, it takes up.
And now he didn't let his hair grow out. I don't know. He's on his Jay-Z. I don't know what's going on.
Jay-Z. On my Zion. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, but when I met you, you had a fade.
Yeah. I'll be back there soon. But anyway, in doing that, it makes you really question yourself because you feel like, damn, like I think I'm leaving with true intention. This is how I was raised, and these men were celebrated in my community. My grandfather was celebrated on his block, right?
Mm-hmm,
my dad's celebrated by people within his communities in many a way because they're not afraid to stand strong on something. I'm like, damn, when I'm doing it, I'm running into all these, but I had to realize it's weaker people that are being intimidated by it. But at the moment, the weaker people is the majority.
Right.
So I say that to say because I remember looking up at the ceiling on the couch, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. when I'm going through the low of it. And you talk about the definition of mental health. I'm letting myself hit the low because I realized this can't live forever. Just like a breakup with somebody. I'm grieving something, right? So as I'm going through the grieving process, because I don't want to get the healing yet, I'm not ready. Let me go through it. But it makes you question, do I really want to be this type of man? Do I want to, let me be softer. Let me be all these other things. And then I had to come to grips with it. Like I even asked myself, do I want my daughter to lean in as hard as I do? Because I don't want her to have to go through this internalizing. I don't want to have to go through this imposter feeling. Then I'm literally, no joke, I'm in the shower. I'm like, nah, fuck that. Like I'm not going to cower because of these fools. Mm-hmm. And I remember having to stand strong in it. And my mantra came out of it saying, you know what, regardless of what I'm going through now, I'm going to be all right in a minute. So I'm going to make decisions today with the courage to be proud of them 5 years from now. Mm-hmm. And that's where it came from.
Again, synergy, right? That's AKA better known self, guys. You know, that belief to empower yourself and then to transform your own thinking. Because often you're your own worst enemy in your own head and your own thoughts about what you can do or what you can't do based on experiences and things that other people project on you. You know, I recently put a post on my page. Is this your energy or are you carrying someone else's?
Oof. Talk to them.
Right? You know, like often we don't realize that the negativity in our head is not even ours. It's something somebody said to you so way back that stuck with you and you still playing that same tape instead of challenging it with your receipts, your experience, what other people have said, and just in general, like, you know who you are. You know what you can do and what you can achieve. Mm-hmm. So again, a series
and even if you don't, you know it's in you.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the part that's important because I remember feeling paralyzed by an industry. It's in you. And sometimes you got to be pushed out of it. You got to be pushed into that discomfort.
Yeah, it's called, Steve Harvey had a book called Jump. But sometimes our biggest opportunities come disguised as bad news. Like if you don't have that thing that you think is so bad happen to you, you will never, ever move.
Hallelujah.
You never go nowhere. Say it louder for the people in the back, okay? Mm-hmm. But you'll never do anything. You'll get complacent. You'll stay stuck. Mm-hmm. Everything bad that's happened to you isn't meant to destroy you. Sometimes it's meant to make you move and make you grow, right?
That's exactly what it did.
So, you know, one of the things I found out, I was looking up some data for this conversation tonight, and LinkedIn did a study back in 2023.
What'd they say?
85% of jobs are filled through networking, which I think 90% of my opportunities have came from networking. I've always told people this. 90% of my jobs have came through networking. I don't know how I learned how to network, but I just have been doing it as long as I can remember. I've been a networker. Even to what high school I went to was because I asked my friends what high school was they going to and who did they talk to that got them in that high school. And I told my mama, such and such is going to this high school and this is the principal's name and this is the principal's phone number. Mm-hmm. And I want to go to that high school. Can you call them? So I was always an advocate, just didn't have a name for it. Had to figure that on my own because they told me to sit down a lot and shut up. I talk too much. Now that's my gift.
What?
That's my gift.
You talk too much?
Yes, they did.
No.
Every report card, she talked too much. She needs to learn how to be quiet, stay in her seat, and stop trying to help everybody.
She said, "I'm gonna
do her own work."
Watch.
I mean, I didn't know, but they should have helped me cultivate it, but they didn't. It's cool. I did it. I cultivated myself. But 85% of the jobs are filled through networking.
Yeah.
Yet 1 in 4 professionals say they feel uncomfortable initiating conversations.
Mm-hmm. That's because
I think imposter syndrome. I think the things that you just spoke about of past experiences take people's voice away, makes them become where they're afraid and they lose confidence in themselves because they can't deal with rejection. That one rejection, that one no, or that one time you didn't get what you wanted, probably is a series. This I'm minimizing, right? There's probably a series of times, but you then stop. You stop doing it.
So you said it. You summarized everything I was about to say. All these folks probably got participation trophies, right? There's no first or second place. Right? Yes, you gotta grind.
Sometimes you gotta lose.
Yeah, I'm trying to tell you, but it develops thick skin, and you gotta realize everybody don't like you. So in the process of those two things, it makes you realize ain't nobody gonna save you. I gotta go take what I want. And once that really connects and hits, you realize it's not a greed thing. It's also saying like, well, what the hell do you like to do? Because you don't got to do what they are liking to do.
Right.
You're gonna figure something out for your own. Shout out to my boy too, and Green. When I was in high school, I used to sit with the nerds, the geeks, the lacrosse.
This got to
folks.
be a cancer thing.
So
shout out to my bestie. She said that's on all y'all report cards. Not everybody. Some of y'all was quiet, but I know you was talking too, Natia. Natia was a talker. Shout out to my bestie. She on Instagram. Commenting.
What up, bestie? No, I was saying that you made me lose my train of thought.
Your friend Al Green.
Oh, shout out to my boy Ant because not Al Green, Anthony Green. I used to I'll say be liked by all kind of like communities.
Yeah. And he was with the nerds.
He was a hooper. Yep, he was a hooper. And for some reason he didn't like me. And I remember trying to impress upon him when I was younger, and then I got to the point, like, man, the hell is this dude, right? A couple of months on the bus, to hell with him. And I remember then somehow at the end of that year, we became really tight friends. And I realized it was because at some point I stopped trying to press upon him, and then I was just completely me, regardless of whether he liked it or not. And then that authenticity actually built the both of us. As a matter of fact, he was actually in my wedding. So
wow,
yeah.
Did you hear that?
It taught me a lot in the sense of being you. I had that introduction. I had a real firm learning at the age of 14 and 15, where I think a lot of folks don't get it till 32, 33.
Yes.
A lot of folks are trying to be like yes men in the way.
I think you're right. And I think talking to my high school, shout out to my Flossie posse, right? My high school girlfriends. I struggled for a long time and people didn't even know it with that. Mm-hmm. Although everybody thought that I had the confidence and I was showing up as my authentic self, I was constantly in my head about whether or not I was okay. Was it okay? Like very, very subconscious, about a lot of things. I don't think until I got older that it all started to sort of have a synergy and started to gel. That part of it, what it was is I didn't like conflict, right? I didn't like being challenged or feeling uncomfortable. But to be authentic, you have to be okay with that. Mm-hmm. You have to be okay with people not liking you, questioning what you do, maybe even not even wanting to really rock with you. You got to be okay with that to be yourself.
Yeah.
So, I'm okay with it now. I've learned how to be both in community and in solitude, and both and that I think is growth.
And then I also learned at a young age as well how to advocate for others in spaces. Not save others, but especially when I saw people ridiculed or like mistreated, especially by other dominant groups, whatever the dominant group was, nah, we ain't having that. I learned how to, I don't like that. I don't like bullies. I don't like folks that just feel like they could come for other people because they got no voice. Mm-hmm. And that advocacy piece has turned into a lot of the work I do now too. So,
and you just segued me into my question, which was, how do you create safe, inclusive networking spaces where people can feel that they can show up as their full selves?
Shameless plug, younger brother, and I got another one called Bridging Conversation. So I started creating mentor groups when I was in space education. Just to give you a little context, I was in education, like she said. I taught everything. I was in the world from K through 12 all the way I was an adjunct professor. So I started creating those mentoring groups. Younger brother was my mentoring group, and it started one way and it wound up growing into even greater just spaces for young men to talk. And that they'll tell me the things that they won't tell their parents, but also that I'm trusting in their vulnerability to be able to say, look, let me help course correct this a little bit, guide you. The scariest moment for any black man is the ages of 19 to 26. And I do a lot of speaking about this because it's when high school stops, but the real world gets aggressive. And if they don't have a plan for when high school stops, then I don't care if it's the Army, I don't care if it's the Job Corps, trade, college, you name it, something where they can feel a value, then they get outside. coping skills, weed, women, like whatever they'll do to be able to feel like they can gain some level of confidence, they'll do. And sometimes that could be a scary junction, not only for them, but for us.
Talk about it. I got a 19-year-old right now. Shout out to my son. Love you. But I see it firsthand. You're absolutely 100% right.
So I do now these overnight retreats, these 24-hour to whatever overnight retreats, or I just have consistent touch points with certain colleges where I create affinity spaces for these young men, and we use it under the guise of social emotional learning. So my favorite two are self-awareness and then self-management, being able to identify triggers and motivators, and then self-management. All right, now what are we doing when XYZ happens? How do you prepare for this? What are your goal settings? Matter of fact, what is your time, what is structure of your time look like? So that's for younger men. I recently started doing something called Bridging Conversations for men, period. Men, fathers, you name it. And the first topic we had was called Navigating the Postpartum Period. So I have kids in there, 18, 19, 20, all the way up to grown men in their 60s. And the goal is that they can talk about their tutelage, the men that have been in that situation, survived it and or failed it. And then you got 19-year-olds looking at them like, okay, boom, I hear that part. I ain't got to step on that landmine. But also it's a therapeutic space because we'll have clinicians in the space, other resources that can really talk about it. So we're taking a barbershop and actually giving you some concepts. The next one's called taking inventory of our personal relationships and identifying what doesn't grow us. That'll be July 15th. If your son wants to come to that one, let me know. He can bring a friend. It's a closed door space. So if anybody's interested, you can email me at thirdexposure, THIRD exposure @gmail.com. If you're in the Boston area and you know a man that could benefit from the space, we ask everybody, whoever's coming, $10 commitment, just so we can actually, keep the lights on for it. But it's about 2.5 hour session. We keep about 30 minutes in the space, and it's a real, when I say it's an emotional space, sometimes it's just really, it's hysterical, sometimes you name it. But those are the two ways I keep space and I create space in my community. So I'm not just talking about it, I'm actively living in it. So I can give everything from data points to like, here's the real gist of it. And I don't care what your industry or background is. We bring folks in and we strip all that at the door.
I love that. I think, one of the things, you never know why people come to you in your life, but I think everybody comes into your life with a purpose and a reason, even if it's just to teach you something. So I had looked up, because I'm always connecting clinically. That's one of the things we do when we create our No Filter. We always have a clinical lens. And so there's something called relational cultural theory. Okay. And I was like, I looked that up. They call it RCT, right? And the whole concept of it is that growth fostering relationships increases resilience, especially for historically marginalized communities. So believe it or not, group work and helping people forge connections, or as you said, bridging conversations, is essential to helping people build the skills to help themselves, right? Like that old adage about teaching someone, you can either teach someone to fish. How's it go again?
Yeah, you can teach someone you can fish for someone. Or
you can teach them how to fish for themselves. And I feel like a lot of the work that we do is really to build people's capacity to be able to navigate the world on their own. Because I think some of us missed it, either because you didn't get taught or you just had some real jacked up things happen to you along the way that makes you not trust yourself.
And to make it really hit home, I remember I had a kid one time and his dad was locked up for a large part of his life. I met his dad in between one of his stints in prison. And then we're in a conversation. He's in my 8th grade group and he's like, yo, he talking about he want all these women, this, that, and the third, all these kids. And I was like, yo, you got all kids. How often you want to see your kids? He was like, I see my kid like once a month. I said, once a month? Like, come on, bro. He was like, well, yo, Lamb, I saw my dad 4 times throughout my 14 years of existence. If I see my kid 12 times a year, I'm winning. So you can measure the harm reduction in that and feel like, oh, great. But also, like, how we really teaching these young men what family dynamics can look like. Better yet, what can love really feel like? And I'm not talking about cliche. I got young men that cry because they don't feel like they're of value to their fathers.
Wow.
In their 40s,
right,
50s, much less 15. So, like, I could hear him saying he wanted to be better than his dad. And also, he didn't have a realistic lens of how he should or want to be. Like,
right. Whew. Mr. Lambert, I need 2 hours to talk to you, man. We are approaching the last 10 minutes of this conversation, and we haven't even touched on half of what we said we were going to talk about, right? But you guys know y'all tuned into Coach Coach La La La, your
She
favorite
got a
around the way
theme song.
therapist.
I got a theme song.
I got 2 theme songs, actually. Shout out to Daniel Laurent. He's on here. He did me a theme song, too. You only hear that version when you download the podcast, though.
Okay.
Nancia, I play her on the introduction on the radio, and then they're both on the podcast, the replay that plays everywhere. So this show, as you know, is all grounded in really getting you to start to think and build your capacity, shift your perspective. None of these things that are what I would say coaches statements, right? These are things you can read in most self-help books, talk about capacity, managing your emotions. This is not new stuff, right? I just put my little spin on it. So bet on self moments, because we like running out of time. You know, I had a whole bunch of stuff I wanted to talk about. We got 10 minutes
right now.
Not yet.
Oh, we got
Not
one
yet.
question. All right,
We doing good, but we need like 2 hours for all of this content.
I just want to make sure I get my last drop in before you start doing your closing comments.
Okay. No, I ain't closing yet, but I want to talk about bet on self moments because it's going to help us with getting there. These are those times in your life where you have to define your direction, right? You have to choose your own healing and growth, even when it's uncomfortable, which ties back to just stepping out and creating your own lane and all of those good things. When you think about you, James Lambert III, and your 2 different businesses and being a father, being a stand-up guy, how would you define a bet on self moment that maybe you've had in the past, currently, or something that's coming up for you that you see yourself really pushing the limits of making yourself uncomfortable?
Wow, I think it's happening in stages. The first was not caring how people looked. And I'll get to when that's coming, and just kind of really getting out there networking aggressively. Then it was having people trust me with their livelihoods, their businesses, right? That's, you talk about bet on self. Like I'm stepping in front of you and I've never owned a restaurant, but I'm teaching you, I'm telling you, and I'm guiding you on how to maximize your restaurant, right? I'm playing with your livelihood. Now, creating my own spaces as opposed to, because, you know, I do 20 to 25 events a month, but I'm usually contracted to moderate event, curate it, whatever. But that's other people's events, i.e. a wedding. And now creating my own events that will folks come to 2 I just talked to you about, Younger Brother, as well as Bridging Conversations, in which now I'm putting all my vulnerabilities out there. And the funny part though is, Keish, if I'm being honest, I know mine are different. You know, I'm gonna say with a little bit of I'm people get mad. There's a couple folks in the city mad at me right now because I think they feel like I stepped on their toes. Well, get your little punk ass show out of here. I care about less about that. And I hope they hear me. But it's really about how do I create spaces that are going to be different from them based on what I know I needed. So when I was a math teacher, they used to teach us how to teach the kids XYZ way. The best math teacher I ever had was my father, because he knew a level of drilling that had to happen. He knew when to have tough love, and he also knew when, okay, let me slow this down so you really understand it. So when I create spaces for men, I know as a man, the checkpoints I just told you, looking up at the couch at 3 a.m. because I feel like I'm being attacked from different angles. How do I give men the space to talk about that? So that's the bet on self moments that I'm having now most supremely are when I'm saying I'm going to create my own, because there's a vulnerability that folks won't like it. It'll be dismissed, not well attended, whatever. But it's okay because I know this is what I needed and I was looking for. So, and then when I do it, and then the feedback I get on text messages after, you talking about 20 feet tall. So those moments, even though I'm starting to get used to doing them, there's still moments where the preparation, just the same way you come really intentional and prepared for these moments, coming in equally for those are better self moments, because I'm creating space based on what I needed and allowing men to respond to, react from it, hopefully grow from it.
Yeah. I think, that's a bar. I think trusting yourself enough to execute a vision, even if no one else sees it, not knowing if nobody's going to show up. I remember I used to be like, I feel like whenever I do an event, I'm that little girl who was 13 that did her first boy-girl party, and everything was set up. My mother said, yes, I could have the party. And I'm sitting here wondering if my friends are going to show up. Every single time I do an event, I still, even though I've done sold out events time and time again, the humility is still there that no one has to show up. And to never think that I've gotten so big that everybody's always going to come. I don't know if anybody else feels like that, but I think about when I see people like Beyonce and whole stadiums are full singing her songs, and you see her get emotional. I can connect to like the idea that, you know, people are here. I hope to get even, you know, do even bigger events, but my pole therapy events to me are like Beyonce's moment when people are singing songs and you look up and you see all these people here and they're enjoying themselves and they're posting and they're texting, and I'm like, whoa, I did this. Yeah. So I get you when you talk about feeling 20 feet tall. Like,
you better keep running with that damn thing too. You got something with that.
Yeah.
Before somebody steal that idea from you, you better run with it. I'm telling you again right now.
You know what? And if they do, they do. They never will do it like me.
Facts.
I can't worry about that because that's one of my fears, right? Is that if I sit still for too long, someone's going to try to replicate me, or I won't be relevant anymore. No one's going to show up for my stuff if I don't go to every single event that's happening in Boston. How can I expect people to show up for me? I'm not killing myself to stay relevant.
Yeah,
right.
I didn't mean it in that way. My fault. I was saying it sarcastically because I've done 3 events, 3 of your pole therapies, at least, and you create a vibe. And I remember the first time I walked into it, I said, "Okay, Keish," right? So flowers to you for it because you create a space where folks can come get their off. I know I can't curse in the station, but also like there's also from an artist standpoint, and I know there's not supposed to be competition within artistry, but there's competition with everything. Everybody brings their foot forward for your spaces, right? So
and I think that's me. You can create, and to anybody listening to me, because I'm sure there's a lot of events that have been inspired by me. There's a lot of people that are inspired by me. There's a lot of people that listen to this show that'll never let me know they listen to this show, but I know you're listening, and I got a mission that's bigger than you. I got a mission that has been placed on me and a purpose.
Can I say this
to inspire the masses to bet on self. So if you're betting on yourself, if you say bet on self, you said bet on yourself. You say it in any version. I'm fulfilling my purpose. So I had to really stop worrying about people copying me and realize God will give me something else if they do.
And you're giving dope poets a platform, and besides just the same person or people being celebrated every time.
That part.
Yeah, so
that part. And I'm looking at people other places that haven't left their city yet now. Shouldn't give y'all my gems. I'm not done. Yeah. This is just called a purposeful pivot.
Got your own theme music, girl.
You know, purposeful pivot. Because every now and again, you got to pause for a second, people, and reflect. If you just go all the time, you never get a chance to take inventory of your successes, your wins, or decide where you need to strategically switch things up. Anyway, all right. We got 3 minutes.
We got another question in 3?
3 minutes. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. What are some boundary setting tips that you use to avoid overextending yourself in professional spaces? And then we're going to switch into Coach's Corner and wrap this bad boy up.
Yeah. Boundary tips. If I feel like I'm being compromised or somebody's looking at me like they're doing me a favor, you keep that. If you don't see the value in it, or especially if we built, and I had to walk away from a position, there was something I walked away from like a little over a year ago that I was really excited about. And I'm looking at the person who we've been working together on 2 or 3 projects, and I'm looking across the table at them with disappointment because I felt like they were sleeping on me. I was like, nah. And I left it on the table. I saw the demon come out that Christian, the way they cursed me out. And I was just like, you show me who you are in real time. I appreciate you. And I walked away with even more. And they try to spin the block and come back later. Cool. Appreciate you. Nah, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
So the guardrails I've had to learn, I will not put myself in a position of compromising my thinking and my confidence due to somebody else's desire to make me feel small or have their ulterior motive at hand. I just can't. And I know I've walked away with a couple bags. And I'll continue to do so because guess what? I forget about it after 2 weeks.
Listen.
But if I got to keep working with them, that's going to stay in my brain for the duration. I ain't doing this with you.
So listen, we're going to have to come back for a part 2. But that was a bar. Hope y'all are listening to what my friend here is talking about. Coach's Corner. As y'all know, we always gather at the end and gather some key takeaways that we'll leave you with so you can carry forward on your journey, your bet on self journey. So what I want you guys to think about, boundaries, right? Say yes to alignment, not to obligation. Energy check. After connecting, ask yourself, did that feel nourishing or draining? Lastly, trust. Trust your intuition. Intuition is your compass, right? I think James just summed it up really nicely. Like, you know what you want. And if you don't know what you want, that's where you start, right? What you want, what you need, and your non-negotiables, both in your professional and your personal life. That's your guiding principles. If you don't know what you stand for, you'll fall for everything. See you later, guys.
Hallelujah. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm glad you came.
I appreciate you.
For the next time, come in next week. Virtual Couch will be on and popping. We got Chief the Poet coming on next week. See y'all next week.
DJ Classmatic.
Just give me all the rubbing.